Good evening, folks. This has been an awesome week for me. God has just been so good. I bless Him and I magnify Him. You know, we've been dealing all this week in our sessions about when God led the children of Israel out of bondage to the promised land. And the Bible told us that He led them a roundabout way. Because He was afraid if He led them the direct traveled way, it was going through the Philistine country, and they were not ready to go to battle. You know, God knows us. He knows if you're ready for a battle or you're not ready for a battle, and He will direct your steps as He knows that you need them. Remember, we talked about the other night that the steps of a righteous individual are ordered of God. It is a glorious experience just to allow God to lead us day by day, but it's even better if we let Him lead us step by step, because He knows what is best for us. I'd like to close out this session with the thought that you and I should not be looking for necessarily the easiest or the most popular route. Have you ever been getting ready to go someplace and you said somebody, well, what route do you take? How do you go such and such? And they give you their route. Well, you may not want to go the most popular route someplace. God may not want to lead you the most popular route, because the Bible teaches us that the way is broad that leadeth to destruction, and many there be that find it, but it's a narrow way that leads to the paths of God's blessing and God's grace. And that's where He not only wants to lead us, that is also where we want to be to follow Him. I discovered a long time ago, God always knows best. Now, I'll be telling, I guess, on myself, but years and years and years ago, eons ago, there was a family program on TV, and it might have been during that session of time where there was ABC, NBC, CBS, and that was all. And at midnight, the bars came up on the screen, and then everything went black after they played a patriotic song. It might have been during that time. I don't know. But the fact is, there was a show on TV that said, "Father knows best." Well, I can tell you, I could have talked to you all week about that very title, because, in fact, Father does know best. God knows without a doubt what is best for you and what is best for me. And if we will simply tune in to what He has to say, He will give us good instructions. Now, I've got my GPS, but don't put all of your faith in your GPS. I was going to go to a funeral it was either a Friday or a Saturday, and I got the name and the address of the cemetery and where the chapel that was at the cemetery, and I fed it into my GPS, and man, away I go. Well, when I got where the GPS was taking me, it was the middle of a hayfield. So I had to turn around, backtrack. I stopped at 2 gas stations to find out how to get to that funeral. Don't put your faith in the GPS. It ain't perfect. But I'm going to tell you right now, you can put your faith in God, because He is. And He by far knows what is best for you. We don't need to look for the popular route. We need to look for the God route for our life, because He will lead us the best way. You understand? There's only one way to heaven. One way. Not 2, 3, 4, 5. There's not big thoroughfares. There's one way, and Jesus is the way. He's the truth. He's the life. And he said, no man comes to the Father but by me. Now, sometimes the narrow paths are not as popular as the broad paths. We shouldn't be looking for the most popular. We shouldn't even necessarily look for the easiest route. See, God led the children of Israel out of Egypt by a different way than what they would have done on their own. You may not know the best path for your life, but if you will seek Him, you will find Him. And when you find Him, He will lead you, guide you, and direct you in all things. You know, following God, serving God, is not always easy, and it's certainly not always popular with people that you run around with. But oh, I'm going to tell you, I am so happy. I am so content because I am following Jesus Christ. His steps are good, and He knows the best way to go. You know, I deer hunt, and you go in and you find your stand or where you're going to sit, and that is not always easy just sitting there. You have to sit there, and you can't always be bouncing around and scourging around, because deer will pick up that movement instantly. Sometimes you just have to be still and know that God is God, and God leads His dear children along. So we follow after Him, and He takes us to our destination. And our destination is to spend eternity with Jesus Christ. In reading God's law to Moses, I found that there were many more things not to do sometimes than it seems that there were to do. And if you and I are not careful, we want to glory in our freedom and overlook the things of the guidelines that God sets before us. When you're going someplace, if you drive, you understand there are certain things you have to pay attention to. Speed limits, when to go slower, when to go faster. Turn signals, remember to use them. Yielding at intersections, especially when people's merging into the traffic. Always remember the passing rules. You never cross over a double yellow line. I'm reminded of my brother Charles years and years ago. When he was district youth director, in that day was PYPA leader. And he was going to a youth rally and came upon a big fire, and there's police cars and fire trucks and hoses stretched everywhere. And he was watching the policeman in front of him, and the policeman in front of him was motioning him on. So Charles, he just slowed down and went on past that policeman and followed what he thought of his directions and ran over a fire hose. The next thing he heard was something banging off the back of his window. The policeman had reached down and picked up a bunch of rocks and threw at his car. Charles stopped, policeman coming running up there. Charlie pulled down his window and he said, the cop said, "What are you doing?" Charles said, "I was just following your direction." He said, "No, I was telling you to turn back there." He said, "Don't you know it's illegal to run across a fire hose at a fire?" Charles said, "No, sir, I didn't know it. I was just trying to obey your directions." He said, "I'm telling you, you said you turn this thing around and you get back out of here and you go that other direction." Charles said, "I didn't know what else to do. I just turned the car around and ran over that same fire hose one more time." He said, "But I didn't stop when I heard that policeman yelling at me." Listen, God's going to have better plans for you than that. You'll know His directions when He tells you what to do. So listen, in this life, be faithful to hear what He has to say. And when you hear what He has to say, Be quick to obey what he declares to you. Listen, until this time next week, have a great weekend. Go with God. God will go with you, and know this: greater is he who is within us than he who is in the world. God bless you. Let God direct your steps. Good night.